Hey everyone, ready to dive into a topic we all think we understand freedom? But today,
Yeah,
we're going beyond just like those surface level ideas. We're going deep.
I like it.
Thanks to economist Joseph E. Stiglitz and his book, The Road to Freedom.
Okay.
We've got some intriguing excerpts here.
Right.
And trust me,
Yeah.
it gets deep.
Okay.
We're not just defining freedom.
Right.
We're really kind of digging into how our economic systems,
Yeah.
especially capitalism,
Yeah.
actually shape the freedoms we have
Right.
or think we have.
Yeah, it's so interesting how we talk about freedom as this big, almost mythical thing.
Right.
But we don't often stop and think about how it actually plays out
Right.
in our everyday lives, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And Stiglitz's argument really resonated with me on this. He's saying that the very systems that we create, often with the goal of maximizing certain freedoms,
right.
can actually end up limiting other freedoms.
Okay, so let's unpack that.
Yeah.
Stiglitz takes on this classic libertarian view of freedom,
Right.
the kind championed by Hayek and Friedman.
Of course, yeah.
Staunch advocates for free markets,
Free markets, yeah.
minimal government intervention.
Right.
What's Stiglitz's main critique of their perspective?
Well, he makes the point that they miss this crucial point.
Yeah.
Freedom isn't like a one-way street.
Okay.
One person's freedom can directly impact another person's lack of freedom.
Interesting.
He uses this powerful image of one person's freedom being another person's unfreedom. To illustrate this idea, take pollution, for example.
Yeah.
Your freedom to pollute
Right.
directly impacts my freedom to breathe clean air.
It's like that ripple effect.
Exactly.
Our actions, even in the name of freedom,
Right.
can have these unintended consequences.
Totally.
They restrict the freedoms of others.
Yeah, and this isn't just some abstract philosophical concept.
Right.
We see it playing out all the time
Absolutely.
in the real world.
Yeah, give me an example.
Look at the spread of misinformation online.
Okay.
Someone might feel they have the freedom to share something,
Right.
even if they believe it's true, right?
Right.
But that very act of sharing
Yeah.
might limit someone else's freedom from being, manipulated or harmed by that information.
Absolutely.
It's like this complex web
Right.
of interconnected freedoms.
Yes.
And we rarely, I think,
Yeah.
stop to consider those connections.
That reminds me of the Yellow Vests protests in France.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Remember those?
Yeah.
The government implemented a gas tax
Right.
to try to combat climate change,
Right. To disincentivize it.
which seems like it would promote freedom
Yeah.
from the negative consequences
Yeah.
of environmental damage.
Right.
But it ended up backfiring massively.
Massively. It disproportionately impacted the working class,
Yes.
who relied heavily on their cars,
Of course.
especially after public transit services had been cut in the name of smaller government.
Right, right.
So
Right.
that's a really stark illustration
Yeah.
of how policies designed to promote one type of freedom can inadvertently restrict others. So in
Okay.
that case,
Yep.
the freedom from environmental consequences
Right.
clashed with
Yeah.
the freedom of movement and economic stability
Yeah.
for a significant portion of the population.
It seems like a classic example of overlooking those interconnected freedoms that Stiglitz talks about.
Absolutely.
It makes you wonder
Yeah.
if our current economic system,
Yeah.
with its emphasis on individual freedom
Right.
and market forces,
Right.
is even equipped to address
Yeah.
these complex interconnected challenges.
That's precisely the question Stiglitz wants us to ask.
And what's the answer?
He says that the current brand of neoliberal capitalism,
Right.
despite its,
Yeah.
promises of prosperity for all,
Right.
is actually failing to deliver on that promise. Instead, it often leads to extreme inequality
Right.
and prioritizes certain freedoms,
Yeah.
often those that benefit the few over others.
It's like we've become so fixated on this idea of freedom as the absence of constraints
Yes.
that we've lost sight of the fact
Yeah.
that true freedom requires certain conditions
Yes,
to
exactly.
exist in the first place.
And one of those conditions
Yeah.
is a degree of economic security
Right.
and opportunity.
It's hard to feel truly free when you're struggling to make ends meet,
Exactly.
or when the system seems rigged against you.
Exactly.
And Stiglitz argues that this isn't just a matter of bad luck
Right,
or individual failings.
right.
He points to the very structure of our economic system,
Yes.
which often prioritizes
Yeah.
the freedom to profit,
The freedom to profit.
even if it means exploiting workers
Right.
consumers,
Right.
or the environment.
The environment, exactly.
He uses some pretty striking examples
He does, yeah.
to illustrate this point.
Yeah.
He talks about how American drug companies
Right.
charge up to 10 times more for insulin
Yeah.
than their European counterparts,
It's wild.
all thanks to how U.S. law defines property rights.
Right. Right.
Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
You're diabetic
Right.
and rely on insulin to live.
Yeah.
In America,
Yeah.
you might pay 10 times more
Right.
for that life-saving medication
Yeah.
than someone in Europe.
Yeah.
This difference
Yeah.
isn't an accident.
No.
It's a direct result of how our system prioritizes
Exactly.
certain freedoms,
Right.
like the freedom of corporations to maximize profits
Right.
over others.
Exactly.
And it makes you question whether a system that allows for that kind of disparity
Right.
in access to essential goods
Right.
can truly be considered free,
Right. Is that even freedom at that point?
even if it operates under the banner of free markets.
And free markets, yeah.
Right. It's almost as if our understanding of freedom itself
Yeah.
has been distorted
Yes.
or manipulated
Yes.
to serve certain interests.
And that brings us to what Stiglitz calls the power of the narrative.
Okay.
He says that corporations,
Yeah.
especially those digital giants that we interact with every day, right,
Right.
have enormous influence over the information we consume and therefore
Yeah.
the way we perceive the world, including our very understanding of freedom.
Okay, so let's dive into this idea of the power of the narrative a
Uh-huh.
bit deeper,
Okay.
because it feels incredibly relevant
It really does.
to our current moment.
Yeah.
How do these corporations,
Yeah.
these digital platforms,
Right.
actually shape our
Yeah.
understanding of something
Yeah.
as fundamental as freedom?
Okay, so think about how much time you spend online every day.
A lot.
Scrolling through social media, right?
Right.
Reading news articles, watching videos.
Sure.
Now imagine corporations using algorithm
Okay.
to subtly shape the information you see,
Right.
steering you toward content that makes you angry or afraid,
Right.
content that reinforces a particular worldview.
Okay.
This isn't science fiction.
Right.
This is the reality
Right.
of how these platforms operate.
Yeah.
They profit from our attention.
Right.
And they've become incredibly sophisticated at
Yeah.
keeping us engaged,
Right.
even if it means exploiting
Yeah.
our emotions and biases.
It's like that saying, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product.
Exactly.
We might think we're getting all this information and entertainment for free,
Right.
but the real cost is our attention,
Our attention.
our data,
Yes.
and ultimately our ability to think critically
Yes.
and form our own opinions.
Exactly. And that's what makes this
Yeah.
power of the narrative
Right.
so insidious.
Right.
It's not always overt propaganda or censorship.
Yeah.
It's much more subtle, much more pervasive.
Right.
It's about shaping the very air we breathe, the informational environment we inhabit.
Yeah.
And because it's so subtle,
Right.
so ingrained in our digital lives,
Right.
it can be incredibly difficult to even recognize, let alone resist.
So how do we break free from this cycle?
Right.
This sense that our understanding of freedom itself
Yeah.
is being shaped by forces outside our control.
Right. Right.
How do we reclaim that sense of agency
Right.
and start to create a system
Yeah.
that reflects a more holistic,
Yeah.
more equitable vision of freedom?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It can feel
Yeah.
overwhelming. Like we're stuck in a system that's kind of rigged against us,
Right.
constantly being bombarded
Yeah.
with these messages that reinforce the status quo.
Right.
But Stiglitz isn't all doom and gloom.
Okay, good.
He
Yeah.
he actually offers a way forward, a path toward what he calls progressive capitalism.
Progressive capitalism.
Yeah.
It has a nice ring to it.
Yeah.
But what does that actually look like
Okay.
in practice?
Yeah.
How do we move from a system that often feels designed to benefit the few
Right.
to one that promotes,
Okay.
genuine freedom and opportunity for all?
Well, for Stiglitz,
Yeah.
it starts with recognizing that our current system
Yeah.
isn't some kind of like
I'm with you.
neutral playing field,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
It's been shaped by decades of policy choices,
Right.
many of which have prioritized
Yeah.
corporate interests and a very kind of narrow definition
Right.
of freedom.
Okay, so less about tearing down the whole system.
Right. It's about rebalancing the scales.
Oh,
Right.
got it.
Creating a system that's designed to work
Yeah.
for everyone.
Right.
not just those at the top.
More about a fundamental
Exactly.
redesign.
Yeah, and it's about recognizing that our freedoms are interconnected.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
My ability to thrive depends in part on your ability to thrive.
Right.
We can't have a truly free society
Right.
when so many people are struggling
Right. To just get by.
to get by, right?
Yeah.
Burdened by student debt, healthcare costs,
Yeah.
stagnant wages,
Yeah.
all while, the rich keep getting richer.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
But how do we actually achieve that kind of systemic change?
Right.
It feels like we're up against
It's not.
some pretty powerful forces.
It's not going to be easy.
Right. The people who benefit from the status quo.
Yeah. But Stiglitz reminds us that history is full of examples of seemingly insurmountable systems being challenged and changed.
Yeah, of course.
You think about the labor movement,
Yeah.
the civil rights movement,
Right.
the fight for women's suffrage. All these movements started with ordinary people demanding a better world,
Right.
a fairer system.
Totally.
And while the challenges we face today
Yeah.
might seem different,
Yeah.
that fundamental human impulse
Right.
for justice,
Right.
for a world where everyone has the chance to thrive,
Right.
that's a powerful force.
It's about recognizing that we have more power
exactly.
than we often realize.
Yes.
Both individually and
Collectively.
collectively.
Right. And one crucial aspect of that, of reclaiming that power,
Okay.
is recognizing the ways in which our current system actually undermines the very things it claims to promote.
Interesting.
For example, we're constantly told
Yeah.
that individual responsibility
Right.
is the key to success.
Right.
That if you just work hard enough,
Right.
you can achieve anything.
You can do anything you set your mind to.
Right. And while individual effort is important, it's meaningless within a system that's rigged against you
Right.
from the start.
From the start.
If you're born into poverty,
Right.
if you don't have access to quality education or healthcare,
Right.
if the system is designed to,
Keep wages low.
keep wages low and profits high,
Yeah.
then no amount of individual effort is going to magically overcome those structural barriers.
That's like we've internalized this idea
Exactly.
that our struggles are our fault
Yes.
if we're not succeeding.
Right.
It's because we're not trying hard enough.
Exactly.
And that kind of thinking actually prevents us from seeing the systemic forces that are keeping so many people down.
And it makes us less likely to support the kinds of policies that could actually level the playing field.
What kinds of policies?
And create a more equitable society.
Give me some examples.
Things like universal health care,
Okay.
affordable housing, debt-free college.
A living wage.
Right.
Yeah. These policies get framed as, handouts or socialism.
Right.
But in reality, they're about ensuring that everyone has a fair shot at a decent life.
Yeah.
That everyone has the opportunity to reach their full potential.
It's about recognizing that true freedom isn't just about the absence of constraints.
Exactly.
But also about the presence.
Yes, the presence
of opportunities.
Of opportunities, exactly.
Those opportunities don't just...
And they don't magically appear.
They have to be created
right.
through collective action.
Okay.
Through public investment.
Right.
Through a willingness to challenge those who benefit from the status quo.
So where do we start?
Right.
How do we translate these big ideas?
Right.
Progressive capitalism.
Right.
Collective action.
Yeah.
Rebalancing the scales.
Right.
How do we translate these into concrete action?
He covers a lot of ground in the book.
Okay.
But one key area he focuses on
yeah.
is the need to curb
okay.
corporate power.
Okay, so it's not just about...
He argues that we've allowed corporations to accumulate
right.
too much power and influence.
Okay.
And that this concentration of power
right.
is a major driver of inequality
right.
and a threat to our democracy.
So it's not just about taxing the rich.
It's about addressing the systemic imbalances
right.
that allow for that concentration of wealth and power in the first place.
Creating a system
exactly.
where the market serves the people,
yes,
not the other way around.
Exactly.
And that means things like...
stronger antitrust laws, regulations to prevent monopolies and oligopolies,
Right.
Support for
Small businesses.
small businesses and worker cooperatives.
It's about creating
a more level playing field.
a more level playing field.
So to speak.
Right, where everyone has a fair shot.
Right.
Not just those with the most money and influence.
Right. And it's also about addressing those information asymmetries we talked about earlier.
Right.
Stiglitz is a big proponent of transparency and accountability.
Right.
Especially when it comes to the ways in which corporations operate.
How they operate, yeah.
He argues that we need stronger regulations to ensure that consumers have access to
accurate information. Because true freedom of choice isn't really possible.
To protect their privacy and to prevent, manipulative advertising and predatory lending.
When you're being constantly bombarded with misinformation.
Exactly.
Or targeted with scams.
And this isn't just about protecting consumers. It's also about
empowering workers.
Right? Stiglitz argues that one of the key failures of neoliberalism has been this kind of relentless assault on labor unions and worker rights.
So he believes that
stronger unions, higher minimum wages, and policies that promote worker ownership and profit sharing are essential for creating a more just and equitable economy.
So it sounds like progressive capitalism
is
about more than just
it's about creating a system.
Economic efficiency or maximizing GDP.
That values fairness, democracy, and the well-being of all citizens.
It's about creating a system that works for everyone.
It's about recognizing that our economy should serve our democracy.
Right. Not just a select few.
Not the other way around.
Right.
And that means ensuring that everyone has a voice in shaping the rules of the game.
So we've talked about
not just the wealthy and powerful.
Curbing corporate power.
Right.
Empowering workers.
Yes.
Promoting transparency and accountability.
Yeah.
Are there other key pillars?
He also emphasizes the importance
of this progressive
of public investment.
Capitalist vision.
He argues that for too long, we've bought into this idea that the government should be small and inactive.
Right.
That the private sector
more efficient.
It is always more efficient and innovative.
Right. It's like we've forgotten.
But history shows that clean energy and scientific research.
It's about recognizing that we're all in this together.
He emphasizes that these investments shouldn't just be seen as costs, but as opportunities to create jobs, improve lives.
Invest in our communities,
and build a more sustainable and equitable future.
In our shared future,
He points to the potential of a Green New Deal to not only address the climate crisis, but to create millions of good-paying jobs and revitalize communities across the country.
So it's about moving beyond this narrow focus on short-term profits.
It's about recognizing that true progress isn't measured solely by GDP growth, but also by things like social mobility.
Embracing a more long-term
environmental sustainability, holistic vision of progress.
And the overall well-being of our citizens.
It's about creating a system that works for everyone.
Not just a select few.
And while it might seem like a daunting task, especially given
the current
political climate. Stiglitz remains optimistic. He believes that by challenging those dominant narratives, by organizing and mobilizing, by articulating a clear and compelling vision of a better future, we can create a world where everyone has the opportunity to experience
a powerful message,
genuine freedom
of hope and possibility.
Yeah.
It's inspiring to think about, the kind of future we could create, if we kind of shifted our focus from individual gain to collective well-being. But let's get down to, brass tacks here. How do we actually implement these progressive capitalist ideas? Especially on a global scale. Because
we've talked about
the power of
corporations, the power of corporations.
And it seems like they wield influence across borders.
You've hit on a crucial point.
Absolutely.
It's not enough to just focus on domestic policies.
We need to kind of rethink
We need to rethink
the
very framework of globalization itself.
Yeah,
Stiglitz argues that the current system, with its emphasis on
free
trade and deregulation, has often benefited corporations at the expense of
workers and the environment.
Yeah.
It's like we've outsourced our problems.
Exactly.
Without actually solving them.
Yeah.
We might enjoy cheaper goods.
Right.
But at what cost?
Exactly. And this isn't about, demonizing trade or globalization itself. It's about recognizing that the rules of the game as they currently stand
are often rigged in favor of the powerful.
Right.
We need to rewrite those rules to ensure that globalization benefits everyone. Not just
a select few. So less about throwing out the whole system.
Precisely. Stiglitz talks about the need for a progressive globalization. A system that prioritizes human rights, labor standards, and environmental sustainability.
More about a fundamental redesign.
It means rethinking
of how it operates,
those trade agreements that often prioritize corporate profits over,
workers' rights
or environmental protection.
Yeah, that makes sense. But how do we get there?
Right.
I mean, these international agreements involve so many different countries with different priorities, different interests.
It's a complex challenge.
Where do we even begin?
No doubt. But Stiglitz points to
a number of concrete steps we can take.
Okay, I like concrete steps.
One is to give more power to institutions that represent the interests of developing countries, right?
Less about imposing solutions.
And to ensure that those countries have
from the top down
a real say in shaping the rules.
More about fostering genuine
of global trade and finance.
Cooperation, partnership.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we're all in this together.
We are all in this together.
And that creating a more just and sustainable world requires a collective effort.
Absolutely.
Another key aspect of this is addressing the issue of tax havens.
Ah, yes.
Right?
Tax havens.
Those notorious.
Where corporations and wealthy individuals
tax havens
stash their money to avoid paying their fair share.
Exactly. Stiglitz argues that cracking down on tax havens is essential for creating a more equitable global system. It's about making sure that everyone...
It's about ensuring that everyone contributes their fair share. To the common good. And that we have the resources to invest in things like...
education, healthcare.
And sustainable development.
So it sounds like progressive capitalism.
Right.
Both domestically and globally, is about more than just tweaking.
It's about a fundamental shift.
The existing system.
In our values.
Right.
From a narrow focus on individual gain to a broader concern.
Right. It's about more than just...
for the well-being of all people.
Economic efficiency.
And the planet.
Or maximizing GDP.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Right.
It's about recognizing that true freedom.
Right. It's about creating a system.
The kind that allows individuals and societies to flourish.
Where everyone has the opportunity.
Requires a delicate balance.
To reach their full potential.
Between individual liberty and collective responsibility. To live in a just and sustainable world.
Between market forces and social justice.
Right.
Between national interests and global cooperation.
And while that might sound like a utopian dream,
Stiglitz argues.
He argues that it's the only way forward.
It's the only way forward.
The alternative, he warns, is a future of widening inequality, social unrest, and environmental catastrophe. A future where true freedom remains elusive for all but a privileged few.
So it's a choice between clinging to a system that's failing or embracing a vision of a better future. A future where freedom
it's not
isn't just an empty slogan.
It's just an empty slogan.
But a lived reality for all.
But a lived reality for everyone. And that choice...
And that choice is ours to make.
Wow. Stiglitz provides us with the roadmap, the ideas. And the inspiration. But
it's up to us.
It's up to us.
As citizens, as consumers, as voters.
As citizens, as consumers, as voters.
To demand that our leaders. Embrace this vision.
And create a world.
Where freedom truly rings for all.
A powerful message to end on.
Right.
It's been quite a deep dive.
It has.
Into the world of progressive capitalism.
Yeah.
We've explored how our economic systems shape our freedoms, the limitations of the current model.
Right.
And the potential for,
Right, the potential.
A more just and equitable future.
For something better.
What are your final thoughts?
My final thought is...
For our listeners.
As you go about your day...
Yeah.
Think about
the choices you make.
The choices we make.
Yeah.
The products you buy.
Right.
The information you consume.
The information we consume, yeah.
The leaders you support.
The leaders you support, right?
Do they align with
the values of progressive capitalism?
Right. Fairness.
Fairness, sustainability, cooperation, opportunity for all.
Sustainability, cooperation, opportunity for all.
If not, what can you do?
What can we do?
To kind of shift the balance.
Yeah, to shift the balance.
To nudge the system. In a more just and equitable direction.
Remember, change starts with each of us.
Change starts with each of us. I love that.
Yeah.
What a powerful reminder that we're not just cogs in the machine.
Right.
We have the power to shape the world we want to live in.
We do.
But it requires us to be engaged, informed, and willing to demand better. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
We hope it sparked some critical thinking.
Critical thinking, I hope so.
And inspired you to action. Until next time.
Keep
questioning.
Keep
learning. Keep learning.
And keep pushing for a better future.
A better future for everyone.